Okay, what?
Okay.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Respected all, on behalf of Archaeological Survey of India, Government of India, Ministry of Culture, Tiruchi Circle from Tamil Nadu. This is our second lectures series of monthly lecture series. This is the second month, February month. Last month we had a very informative and very elaborative lecture of Professor Subbarayalu sir on Chola irrigation systems and Chola administrations. As a following of that lecture series, today we have assembled here to hear the second lecture by the personality, that is Dr. G. Tirumurthy sir from Central University of Tamil Nadu, Tiruvarur. As many of you from Tamil Nadu and other parts of Tamil Nadu, other parts of India, you must be aware, knowing about this personality, G. Tirumurthy sir, because of his long association in the field of archaeology, particularly at Archaeological Survey of India, Chennai Circle. Yes, sir was former employee, technical staff of Archaeological Survey of India of Chennai Circle. Not 1 or 2 years, more than 27 years, he served in a different capacity, starting from a technical assistant up to the assistant superintending archaeologist. Later, he has shifted to the Madras University Archaeology Department, where we all studied once upon a time. Then in the recent past, sir joined in the Central University of Tiruvarur in Tamil Nadu. He is now working in the Department of History. So when we contacted Tirumurthy sir, is for this delivering this talk for this second lecture, so he has readily agreed. That is how even it's interestingly, sir has come to our office. So now sir is sitting with me. So it is my humble responsibility to brief about the speaker, also the generally why we have chosen this topic about the Buddhism. Why this February month, why you have chosen? Because of the simple reason, many of them must be knowing about one R. Subramaniam, the excavator of Nagarjunakonda, famous Buddhist sites in Andhra Pradesh. The excavator of R. Subramaniam, who is no more now. So, being a Buddhist scholar, so we want to remember that personality because his birthday falls in this month, February. Exactly 23 of February. So that is why we were thinking of presenting a paper on Buddhism by the specialist. That is how Dr. Tirumurthy sir is with us now. Friends, regarding the Buddhism, many of you must be knowing the 6th century BC, before Christ. It is an important period in the history of ancient India, as that is a period that is the formation of that 16 Mahajanapadas. Also the famous two religions, that is Jainism as well as Buddhism. The founder of those religions, they are also born during that 6th century BC, before Christ. So the evolution or the spread of Buddhism later, after the demise of Bhagavan Buddha, as we know through the different dynasties like Shunga, Kushan, up to the Gupta period in North India. Also, the spread of the Buddhism in South India during the Sangam period, it is well attested through the many literatures as well as the archaeological sites. So without wasting further more time, so now I am handing over this platform to the speaker of today, that is G. Tirumurthy sir, with a request to speak about him on the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, an archaeological study. So on behalf of Archaeological Survey of India, Tiruchi Circle, we welcome Tirumurthy sir. Now the sir will deliver his talk.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I thank very much the Superintending Archaeologist, Archaeological Survey of India, Trichy Circle, Dr. T. Arun Raj, for having given me the opportunity to present a talk on Buddhism in Tamil Nadu on archaeological study for the monthly lecture series. Believe it or not, this is becoming a rare feature to organize monthly lectures or any kind of lectures for the benefit of the scholars and the students in general and the promotion of archaeological studies in particular. In this regard, as a student of archaeology, I express my sincere thanks and my gratitude to the superintending archaeologist once again. Scholars and friends. In India, the historical period begins with the writing system, and it actually starts with the Sangam period, that is 6th century BC, as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. The Sangam literatures, right from Tolkappiyam, refer 5 land divisions like Kurinji, Mullai, and the respective gods and goddesses of Murugan, Thirumal, etc. The emergence of Jainism and Buddhism in Magadha Kingdom, Bihar, in 6th century BC, soon spread to other parts of India, including Tamil Nadu. Before going into the given topic, that is Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, it is necessary to understand the origin and development of Buddhism in brief. Siddhartha, the future Buddha, was born to Sakya Raja of Kapilavastu in 566 BCE. Siddhartha then married, and after the birth of his son Rahul, he wanted to renounce the royal life. So Siddhartha left the palace at the age of 29 and wandered as a hermit for 6 years. For what purpose? To attain enlightenment. After physical modifications, you might have seen the Buddha sculptures also with the skeletons and all. That is what the physical modifications. So after achieving the physical modifications, he sat under a pipal tree at Gaya and achieved the desired enlightenment. What he wanted, that he has achieved. That is also called the supreme knowledge or Bodhi. Like that, he became Buddha or Sakya Muni. Then Lord Buddha went to deep park at Sarnath and delivered his first sermon to the 5 Brahmins who had deserted him earlier and converted them into his faith. For about 45 years, Lord Buddha visited Banaras, Gaya, Nalanda, Padaliputra, and Awadh and preached his doctrines. Then Buddha established the Sangha also, that is order of monks, to spread his teachings. Lord Buddha insisted, this is what is important in the feature of his teachings. He insisted that the thirst for pleasure is cause for suffering, number 1. Then he also preached right speech, right conduct, not to kill, not to steal, etc. Then Buddha attained the Maha-Nirvana, Parinirvana, at the age of 80 at a place called Kusinagara in Uttar Pradesh. Then, after the Parinirvana, Mahaparinirvana of the Buddha, it was resulted in the erection of large number of stupas, like Sanchi Stupa, over the Buddha's corporal remains, that is the parts of various body, including bone and all. After the Kalinga War, now the Buddhism starts. After the Kalinga War, Mauryan Emperor Ashoka became a Buddhist and tried his level best to spread Buddhism, including South India and Sri Lanka. Ashoka is said to have built how many stupas, 84,000 stupas and 500 viharas. Then it is noted that the adjacent state of Andhra Pradesh, it has been discovered more than 175 stupas in adjacent Andhra Pradesh state alone. 175 stupas at Amaravati, Nagarjuna, Jagayapeta, Goli, so many places. Then Buddha was, what about his teachings, how it was spread and all, philosophies and all. Buddha was originally a teacher, hence Buddha was worshipped with the symbols in the beginning, like Buddha Pada. Later on only, the divisions in Buddhism, that is Hinayana and Mahayana, developed. The Hinayanists worshipped the Buddha in the Buddha Pada only, symbols only, whereas the Mahayanists, they worshipped the Buddha images made of stone, wood, metal, etc. That too with a lot of rituals. Then Buddhism doctrines and philosophies were highly appreciated by the ancient Tamils. To understand the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, the Pali, Sanskrit, Tamil literatures, then archaeological sources like inscriptions, copper plates, Buddhist archaeological remains excavated, treasure trove, etc. Then foreign accounts, foreign literatures, they all helps us to understand that Buddhism flourished in Tamil Nadu in the important centers such as Kanchipuram, Kumbhar, and the Nagapattinam between 3rd century BCE to 13th century CE. So this is what the period in which the Buddhism flourished in Tamil Nadu, 3rd century BCE to 13th century CE. Except there was some setback for the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu between 8th and 9th century CE, Common Era, because of the Bhakti movement that everybody knows. In fact, the Buddhism studies in Tamil Nadu was made by several scholars, including Dr. C. Meenakshi, the first woman PhD scholar from Madras University, then T.N. Ramachandran, K. Nilakanta Shastri, then Maile C.V. Venkatasamy, K.V. Soundararajan, and others also. C. Meenakshi has rightly acknowledged Professor R. Subramaniam's Buddhist remains in Andhra Desha based on Nagarjunakonda excavation report. In her research article on Buddhism in South India, C. Meenakshi records that from recent publication and archaeological excavations conducted elaborately in Andhra country, that is Andhra Pradesh, some knowledge of Buddhism of this region has been made available to us in book form, that is the Archaeological Survey of India's excavation reports. It is known that the major archaeological excavation work, a scrupulous task under salvage archaeology involving more than 2,500 laborers, was involved in the excavation at Nagarjunakonda in 1950s. B.R. Subramaniam thus brought to light the Buddhist stupa, Buddha stupa, rare Buddha relic caskets, several colossal Buddha statues, etc. at Nagarjunakonda. It shows that flourished the Mahayana Buddhism at Nagarjunakonda. Therefore, Nagarjunakonda occupies a prominent position in Buddhism in India. So it was due to B.R. Subramaniam. So the contribution of B.R. Subramaniam, also called Nagarjunakonda Subramaniam, to the study of Buddhism in India is pioneering and immense. In his memory, that the talk is organized by the Archaeological Survey of India, Trichy Circle. As an archaeologist served in the Archaeological Survey of India, I stand before you to share my ideas on Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, archaeological studies. For study of this Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, the sources are very important that you know very well. That is why I have included the sources also, whether it is literary or archaeological sources. Literary sources I have already mentioned you brief, which includes the Bali works by the Buddha Datta, Buddha Gosha, Dignaga, and Dharmabala also. They have done the philosophical and the doctrines of the Buddhism. Then comes some of the Sanskrit literary works also. Of course, Pallava King Mahendravarman, he composed a very rare drama known as Matta Vilasa Prahasana. The drama, in fact, it depicts the struggle between the Kapalikas and Buddhist bhikshus. It is very valuable for study of Buddhism in Tamil Nadu in 6th century Common Era. The drama also refers the existence of a Buddhist vihara known as Raja Vihara at Kanchipuram. Therefore, Matta Vilasa Prahasana is also important. So it is in Sanskrit. Then Tamil literature, of course, Manimegal and Silappadigaram are very important. the Silappadigaram, which is earlier refers the Buddha shrine, Buddha temples at Pumbugar, known as Nikandakotam, and the next important literary work, Manimekalai, that is very important for the Buddhism studies because it is a Buddhist work that refers Buddha's Aravari Alvum, then Buddha's, Bodhi Talaivan, then Adi Mudalvan, Dharma Chakra, etc., etc. Even Dhamma Sangam, the Buddha Dharma Sangam also mentioned in the Manimekalai. Even Umbaril Vari, that is after birth also it is discussed in the Manimekalai literature. Then comes the Veerasoryam also. Of course, it belongs to the 11th century, and it was composed under the patronage of the Chola Veera Rajendra. It also refers to some extent about the Buddhism. The next comes the foreign accounts. Out of many foreign accounts, the Yuan Shuang account is very important. Yes, he visited Kanchipuram in 7th century CE and left a very valuable account about these stupas, monasteries at Kanchipuram particularly. He refers Dravida country as Lalo Pitu, L-A-L-O-P-I-T-U, Lalo Pitu, and its capital was Kanchipulo. So that is what his pronunciation, and he has recorded also Chinese language. Then the capital was a great center of learning, according to Yuan Shuang. He says that there were 100 Buddhist monasteries and 10,000 Buddhist monks, which include 300 from Sri Lanka of Savira Skulanda. Then Kanchipuram was also the birthplace of Dharmabala, and the Yuan Shuang refers there was a stupa at Kanchipuram, and it was built by Ashoka, and it had an height of 100 feet, where Buddhists had defeated Tirthikas, T-H-I-R-T, Tirthikas, that is Jainas, by preaching. It is all recorded in the Yuan Shuang work. So there was something like a fight between the Buddhist and Jainas. That is what recorded in the Yuan Shuang account. Yuan Shuang, of course, he has also referred to Madurai as Malakuta, and most of its monasteries at Madurai were ruined. And there was also a stupa to the eastern side of the capital, like that he has mentioned in his account. And Hitsing, of course, he has not visited South India, but he has mentioned about the distance between Ceylon and the Nagapattinam, which was able to be covered in 2 days. Then he also referred to Ceylon as the son of lion. That is what Ceylon, son of lion. So some kind of this thing, useful information he has mentioned. Of course, the work is very important because it gives a complete Buddhist life, Buddhist monk's life in Ceylon. The other side of the coin, it is available in the Hitsing accounts. Then foreign literature, of course, the Ceylonese Sripavamsa and Mahavamsa, the Ceylonese chronicles, they also refers to Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. In that way, they are very important. Then comes the archaeological sources. Yes, the study is based on the archaeological sources. So the idea about the inscription, copper plates, once again, I just want to go through in detail. Based on archaeological sources, the development of the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu can be conveniently studied under 2 periods. So the Buddhism flourished for the period from 3rd century BCE to 13th century CE. It can be conveniently studied under these 2 periods, early period and later period. Early period means mainly of the Pallava, between 400 to 650 CE, and then the later period, that is the imperial Chola period. So there was a revival of the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu in the imperial Chola period between 10th to 11th century CE. So that is what the 2 periods we are going to study, all the Buddhist sites. What are the important Buddhist sites in Tamil Nadu? They are Kanchipuram, Pumbugar, Nagapattinam. So they were the flourished the Buddhist sites. And I have also included some of the less known sites like Kodamangalam and Tiruchopuram also. So let us begin with the Kanchipuram now. What is the importance of Kanchipuram regarding the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu? It was the capital that you know very well about it, and it was also the capital under the Pallavas. The Pallavas, believe it or not, they ruled from 3rd century BCE to 9th century BCE, 9th century Common Era. That means for more than 600 years, they have ruled the Thondaimandalam area, which extended between the North Pennar and the river Kaveri on the south. During the time of the Pallavas, Kanchi was well known for its Gatika. That was the university level education, and it was the greatest Buddhist learning center also. That is the reason why Kanchi had produced a number of eminent Buddhist scholars, including the famous Dinanaga and his disciple Dharmabala, many others. That's why Tondai Mandalam Sandor that something like this thing statement is still available. It is very famous now. Then what we have mentioned already, stupa built by Ashoka. So that had an height of 100 feet, 100 monasteries and all. Then Yuvan Song and all I have mentioned about you, the Yuvan Song account. Then after the Ashoka, there was a Buddhist Chaityas which were built by certain Kalar Pilli and Ilam Pilli of the Sangam period. And it is all recorded in the Manimeghali literature. So Manimeghali period that everybody knows, it is 2nd century CE. So in about 2nd century CE, there were Buddha Chaityas also. So it shows the continuous, the continuous flourishing of Buddhism in Kanchipuram. Then in the archaeological excavation work conducted at Kanchipuram, the archaeologists they have recovered a pottery that is reading Puttalisa in Tamil Brahmi, which is dated to 1st century BCE. So these are all confirms that the existence of Buddha Vihara of Ashokan times as recorded in the Yuvan Swang account and others also. Then Buddha Datta's Abhidhamma Vadara, which was composed during the time of Kalabara king Achyuta Vikanta. Then a few rulers. This is also very important. Some of the early Pallava rulers, in 4th century CE and 5th century CE, they bore the Buddhist names like Buddhavarman and Buddhayan Pura. So they easily indicate that they were Buddhist only. The Pallavas, they were actually the success of Satavahanas that everybody knows. Satavahanas, they have built large stupas at Amaravati, Jayagapeta, Goli, and so on. So it is quite natural that the success of Satavahanas, that is Pallavas, they have followed. They are the predecessors. That is the predecessors in the sense in the matter of the religious policy. So in the beginning, the Pallava rulers were the ardent followers of Buddhism. That is why the lands were granted to the Buddhist and the Jaina settlement also. Palli Chanda Mandal, you know very well about that, the famous copper plate, copper plate and all. Palli, the copper plate, famous copper plate. So Pallava periods, sir. Pallangoil copper plate, which records the lands granted towards the maintenance of the Jaina temples. But it must have the Buddhist settlement also. They might have given the Palli Chandams and all. That means most of the inscriptions are not available for our study. Then there is also an important Pallava inscription in the Adivaraha Perumal temple at Mamallapuram. Yes, that inscription is very important. Why? Because all the 10 avatars of Lord Vishnu is recorded in the cave temple. On the floor it is recorded. Out of the 10 avataras, the 9th avatara is included the Buddha. That is why this inscription clearly informs us that Buddhism popularity. So Buddhism was very much popular, at least during the Pallava period. Then Buddhism continued to flourish, as it is evident from the inscription of Vijaya Kandakabala of Kanchi dated to 13th century CE, as it records Buddhapalli in the vicinity of Varadaji Perumal temple, that is in Little Kanchipuram, eastern side. Then the Buddha Vihara also. Then these Buddha Viharas in Kanchipuram, they are not able to be traced out. Do not know the reason why, but the large life-size sculptures of Buddha, they have been discovered at various places in Kanchipuram, like Yangaparanatha temple, Varikanilambarada temple, Kamakshi Amman temple, like even nearby Pallur, so many places. They all confirm the existence of so many Buddha Viharas at Kanchipuram. A Buddha Vihara known as Mula Soma Vihara was in existence in 12th century CE. So like that, Kanchipuram occupies an important position in the history of Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. The next important site is Poombuhar. At Poombuhar, you know very well about it, why it was the port city under the Sangam Cholas, and there are literatures like Patinapalai and even Silapadihar, Manimeghale and all. So they speak a lot about Poombuhar, particularly about the Buddhism. To confirm the literary evidences in Silapadihar and Manimeghale, the archaeological exploration and excavation works were conducted at Poombuhar by the Archaeological Survey of India between 1962 and 73. and the excavation works were carried out under S.R. Rao, K.V. Soundararajan, and K.V. Raman. So the excavation brought to light very rare ruined Buddha Vihara at a place called Malayur. Yes, the Buddha Vihara is brick built. The bricks and all sizes it is recorded there, 42 by 24 and 10 centimeters, and they used mud mortar for and all binding. Then the Vihara consisted of 7 rooms. That was more than sufficient for those monks and all. They have permanently resided in these Viharas. Then each room measured 8 by 8 feet, and there was also a mandapa attached with the Vihara, which was decorated with the stucco ornamentation and fresco paintings. Then the mandapa had sockets also for door frames. Then the excavation also yielded rare antiquities like a fine, solid, the bronze figure of the Buddha, then hand portion of the bronze for the hand portion of Buddha in Dharma Chakra, the Parivartana Mudra and all, like Vyagana and all. Like that, number of the antiquities were discovered. Then above all, the Buddha Pada was also, that was made of the Palnad limestone. So limestone, you know very well about it. The limestone Buddhist remains, on the Buddha Stupa remains only are exhibited in the Amaravati Gallery in Madras Government Museum. So that was the limestone, that the same limestone was used for the Buddha Pada, which has been recovered at the Pumbuhar. Then Purna Kumbha, Swastika and other objects also were recovered in the archaeological excavation at Pumbuhar. Then the stone objects also, the panel sculptures representing the Jataka stories, there is Buddha nativity to the renunciation. So like that, number of the sculptures, antiquities, the Buddha Vihara were found in the archaeological excavation at Pumbuhar, which shows that the Pumbuhar was a flourishing Buddhist center from 3rd century BC to 1200 CE. Of course, tsunami was there. That is a different story. Then third important site is Nagapattinam. That is what I am going to discuss. Nagapattinam. It was known as Megama, and it was an important port town and as well as prominent Buddhist center in Tamil Nadu under the Pallavas and the Chola dynasties. Believe it or not, it is mentioned in the Nilakanda Shastri's book that the port was largely attracted by the maritime traders from Southeast Asian countries because of its location. That means when the voyagers came from their countries, you know, the first the area, the place which was seen by them was nothing but the Nagapattinam. So they have straight away reached the Nagapattinam. That is what we have to understand. That is why Nagapattinam developed in those days as important port town. Then there was a Buddha Vihara also known as Patari Tita, built by Ashoka at Nagapattinam. And during the time of the Pallavas also, the Buddhism flourished at Nagapattinam. Yes, Narasimhavarman II had built a Buddha Vihara known as Mallan Gobara at the request of Chinese king in 720 CE. It is all recorded. Then Nagapattinam, yes, only during the time of the imperial Cholas, Nagapattinam rose into prominence. A Buddha Vihara, you know very well about the Sodamani Vihara Mandal, Sodamani Batma Vihara. It was built by Sailendra King Mara Visayutangavarman of Sri Vijaya and the Kadaram countries in memory of his father Solamani Varman. One thing I'll tell you, the Vihara was built nothing but to facilitate the Buddhist traders, mainly from Sri Vijaya. So there was a brisk trade between the Tamil Nadu, ancient Tamil Nadu in Tamil country and the Sri Vijaya particularly. Therefore, to facilitate the traders were from their own country and they were the Buddhist. So they want to worship the Buddha and all. So for the matter of the staying in Tamil Nadu, they wanted one Buddha Vihara. Therefore, the Buddha Vihara they have built at Nagapattinam. A detailed account of Buddha Vihara is recorded in both the copper plates of larger Leiden and small Leiden plates. Now the plates are kept in the Alam University Library that everybody knows. That is why it is known as Leiden plates. The large Leiden plates, which consist of 21 plates fastened by very important the copper ring with the Chola seal and all. It was published in 1886. It is engraved in both Sanskrit and Tamil. The record says that at the request of his royal contemporary Sri Vijaya king, the permission to build Buddha Vihara and the land was granted by King Rajaraja I to build a Buddha Vihara. So like that, the land was granted during the time of Rajaraja the first 21st regnal year, which was similar to King Devapala's the Nalanda copper plates. So both the kings, Rajaraja the first and Devapala, they were contemporary. Here, Rajaraja the first granted lands towards the construction of the Buddha Vihara at Nagapattinam. Similarly, Devapala in North India, he also donated the lands for the construction of the Buddha Vihara, Shingis area. That is why some this thing coincidence is there. But the royal order of the Rajaraja was recorded in copper plates of Chola Rajendra the first. No doubt, Rajaraja issued the order, but it was not during his time that copper plates were issued. Only his successor Rajendra the first in the 6th regnal year, that is 1018 CE, that the record was recorded, engraved in the copper plates. That record says, you see the extent of that land, 97 baileys, that is equivalent to 450 acres in the village called Anaimangalam in Pattanakutram, was granted at Palli Chandam with the boundary details, etc., etc. Now, the Buddha Vihara was built at the Nagapattinam Mandal. What had happened after some time, believe it or not, the encroachment problems was there, encroachment of Buddha Vihara lands. Yes, the Vihara lands at Nagapattinam was encroached by the people, local people. Perhaps that is the reason why they were very much upset, and they brought the notice. The Buddhist, the monks at the Nagapattinam Vihara, they have brought the notice to Sri Vijaya King. Then the Mara Vijayuddham government immediately sent the 2 ambassadors to the Chola kingdom with a request to removal of land encroachments. It shows that the diplomacy or something like a proper channel system. Then the Chola Kulothunga the first came to know this. He respected his forefathers' request. That means Rajaraja and Rajendra's the grants and all. Then he acted immediately. Kulothunga the first acted immediately and issued small laden plates. Just 3 plates only. That is why it is known as small laden plates in this 20th regnal year, that is 1090 CE. What it records? It recorded the order of the removal of all the land encroachments and also the collection of right to tax by the Vihara authorities. So that is what recorded in the small laden copper plates. The same small laden copper plates also refer, there were 2 Viharas. So that is during the time of the Kulothunga the first, there were 2 Viharas at Nagapattinam. They were known as Rajaraja Perumpalli. Sulamani Vihara was the original name, and during the time of the Kulothunga the first, it was known as Rajaraja Perumpalli after the builder, after the king who is been permitted or granted the lands, Rajaraja Perumpalli and Rajendra Chola Perumpalli also. So that another the Buddha Vihara was built by the local chieftains in the name of his master Rajendra. Then there was also another Vihara known as Appasalai Perumpalli, was also exited at Nagapattinam. Then regarding the Sulamani Vihara story is very important. The Sulamani Vihara was very well maintained by the Buddha Sangam, and it showed the royal patronage and all, and the revival of Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. Only at Nagapattinam the Buddhism flourished. That is what we have to understand during this 11th and 10th and 11th century CE. It has reached its zenith under the imperial Cholas. Then it shows also the religious toleration policy followed by the Chola emperors like Chola Rajaraja the first. Believe it or not, to strengthen the policy, Rajaraja the first included the sculptural panel depicting the scenes, including seated Buddha and the tree in the magnificent Pragadishwara temple, which was built by Rajaraja the first at Tanjavur, and also the Airavadeswara temple at Dharasuram, which was built by the Chola Rajaraja the second. Like that, the Sulamani Vihara was very massive brick structure in those times. Then Nilakanta Shastri says that the Vihara was installed with a solid golden image of Lord Buddha. Even now also there is a solid golden image in Thailand. So it shows that it is not quite new for us, the solid golden image and all. So it shows that the wealthy merchant, they might have contributed for the solid image of the Buddha figure and a gold figure. Then the Vihara was dismantled. It is very pity to mention that the famous Vihara was dismantled perhaps due to long negligence and consisted of 3 stories and all. Then there is also some references. It was visited by Sir W. Eliot in 1846. So in 1846, at least the damage, the the Vihara was there, but it was due to the Christian, that is at the instance of the Jesuits missionaries, that the Vihara was pulled down by the Britishers in the year 1882. So Robert Sewell, he said in the Antiquarians of Madras Presidency has recorded everything. Then the ruins of the Vihara yielded a number of sculptures of bronze figures and then even stone figures of Lord Buddha. Then there is also another important place in Tamil Nadu, which was served as a monastery, Buddhist monastery, that was the Bhutamangalam. Buddhadatta's polywork, Vinaya Vinishaya, which was composed in the 5th century Common Era, it records the existence of a Buddhist monastery at Bhutamangalam. There are so many Bhutamangalam, there was confusion also regarding identification. It was Dr. C. Meenakshi who made the spot study in 1939, I think, and she identified with Palli Viruthi Bhutamangalam near Mannargudi in Tiruvarur district. The same Bhutamangalam was also referred in Triyana Sambandhar's Devaram also. So I do not know whether the ruins are available at Bhutamangalam or not, but only it is all just information subject. Then there was also a Buddhist settlement at a place called Tiruchoburam in district, the Kadalur. An inscription of Jadavarman Sundarapandya dated to 1251 CE in the Shiva temple records set an individual name, Sariputta Pandita of Buddha Sangata. That means he belonged to the Buddha Sangam. So it all clearly shows that some Buddhism, some activities were continued at least up to 13th century CE. Except the ruins of the Buddha Vihara at Kumbhar, we don't have any tangible evidence pertaining to Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. That is what it is said. But there are a number of Buddha sculptures and bronzes that have been discovered all over Tamil Nadu. More than 110 Buddha sculptures, which includes 101 sitting by the posters, which out of which 25 are damaged one. That is, hand is lost and the head is lost. Head is cut off. So without head, the Buddha sculptures have been discovered all over Tamil Nadu. The Gunamili Felicitation volumes of Veera Raghavan, it mentions the 109 Buddha sculptures and all. Then Buddha sculptures, I told you about all over Tamil Nadu. The important places where the Buddha sculptures have been recovered are Kanchipuram, Padavedu, Arpakam, then Pulumur, Kilpurichi, Pattiswaram, Nagapattinam, Kizhakulattur, Pallur, Alangudipatti, Vellanur, and there are many places. Even the museums also housing the Buddha sculptures also. The Buddha sculpture at Yagabranatha temple, it measures 2 feet high and it has been identified as Parinirvana Buddha by T.A. Gopinatha Rao. He told you about the bronze figures. The numbers are not available. Nobody has done the survey and all. So the bronzes, they have been recovered in ports at Nagapattinam. 300 bronzes have been recovered at Nagapattinam. So imagine how what you call the flourished Buddhism at Nagapattinam and all. There were finest bronze figures also according to K.V. Soundararajan. Then some of the bronze figures, they are inscribed also. That is one of the bronze figure which reads Nikama at its pedestal. Then there is also another Buddha, the bronze figure has been discovered at Selur in Kudavasal Taluk, Varu district, which also a very important. That pedestal inscription is engraved in Pali language in Grantha script and all. Like the many sculptures and bronze figures have been discovered all over Tamil Nadu. Like that, these bronze figures and sculptures, they are always depicted in Buddha in the Padmasana. Hands are joined in Dhyana Mudra or Bhushvarsa, that is touching the earth as witness. When he achieved the Buddha achieved that Bodhi, he touched the earth as if the earth was the witness. Bhumi Parisha. So that is why the Bhuparisha is also Bhuparisha Mudra is also very important. In almost most of the Buddha images, the Bhuparisha Mudra is depicted. And as usual, Buddha used to have the elongated earlobes Then the garments also. Only the Jaina god used to be nude. Buddha is not like that. Buddha used to wear the lower and upper garments and all. Then the German Dharma Chakra, Ampam, like that. They are the attributions of the Lord Buddha. Then these sculptures, all these sculptures, some of the sculptures only which is exhibited in museums in India, but most of the sculptures have been taken to foreign countries, and the museums like Government Museum Egmore, that art gallery at Tanjavur, the adjacent building in Egmore Museum, then Pudukkottai Museum, Thiruvarur, even the National Museum in New Delhi, they are housing very rare Buddha sculptures from Tamil Nadu. Then some of the sculptures also in living temples, for example, Brigadishwara temple at Tanjavur, which was built by Rajaraja I, has very rare the Buddha miniature sculpture. It is Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. And Airadeshwara temple Tanjavur, built by Rajaraja II, it also has similar Buddha panel. Like that, many panels they have reported all over Tamil Nadu. And another important thing in connection with the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu is the village names. The villages in Tamil Nadu with the suffix Palli. Many villages with the Pallis are there in Tamil Nadu, like Agathiyan Palli, Aratai Perumpalli, Thirukattu Palli, Sempan Palli, then Thiruparthan Palli, finally Tiruchirappalli also. Of course, Tiruchirappalli is not a Buddhist settlement, it is a Jaina settlement. So the Palli suffix, so wherever it is found, you can easily attribute to either Jainism or Buddhism. So if archaeological studies is made on these Buddhist settlements, definitely one can, it is possible to throw more light on Buddhism these teachers. Like that, what I have made this study, it clearly reveals that Buddhism had received the royal patronage and merchant support under the Sangam Cholas, Pallavas, and Imperial Cholas. Particularly, what about the areas in which the Buddhism flourished, in the port towns and the mercantile towns. Kanchipuram was a mercantile town. That is why at Kanchipuram Buddhism flourished. Whereas Pumbuhar and Nagapattinam, they were the port towns, P-O-R-T. So only in these areas, the Buddhism, they have been flourished in Tamil Nadu. And out of all the Buddhist centers in Tamil Nadu, Kanchipuram occupies an important position. Why? Because it had produced number of Buddhist scholars. That is why Kanchipuram is very important, and it occupies an important position in Indian Buddhism history. Then Buddha Vihara at Pumbuhar, though it is in ruins, as it was excavated, it alone serves as a concrete evidence to the Buddhism, the existence of Buddhism, and the in situ discovery of the bronze figure of Dhyana Buddha and limestone Buddha Padas. So, and then regarding the Nagapattinam is concerned, the Nagapattinam Vihara, it shows that the Vihara was built for the purpose of the foreign Buddhist traders. That shows that the Buddhists in foreign countries, they were religious minded. Unfortunately, the lonely Buddha Vihara at Nagapattinam was pulled down by the Britishers. It is very sad to know. Whatever it may be, the numerous Buddha sculptures and bronze figures exhibited in various museums in India and abroad, they show the glorious Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, the Buddhism flourished up to 13th century CE, whereas, believe it or not, where the Buddha born and preached, that is North India and all, the Buddhism was able to flourish, or it declined in 7th century CE. So thereafter, there was no traces of Buddhist activities in North India particularly. That is why the Tamil Nadu is far, far better. Then period between 2nd to 7th century Common Era in Tamil Nadu is considered as the golden age of Buddhism. Then the Buddhist pilgrims, from foreign countries like Sri Lanka, Burma, Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Korea, China, Japan, they had all visited to these Buddha stupas and viharas in Tamil Nadu, particularly the Kanchipuram and developed Buddhism in their countries. They came here, they seen the Buddhist images, Buddhist worship, they studied Buddhist doctrines, and they have spread in their countries. Like that, Buddhism has spread to foreign countries, that is in South Asian countries. That is the reason why Buddhism has emerged as second largest religion in the world. For the matter of which, the contribution of the Tamil Nadu is commendable. And another important thing is the influence of the Buddhist architecture is also found in the temples of Tamil Nadu, particularly at Sairadas at Mamalapuram. Then, to conclude, I'd like to say that despite the fact that Buddhism has lost its hold in Tamil Nadu, its true principles and doctrines are still deeply penetrated in Hinduism. It is the reason why Buddhism is still exists in Tamil Nadu. That is what we have to accept now. The Buddhist principles, Buddhist doctrine, dharmam, then the aram, the whatever love, everything, we are almost imbibed by the Hindus. This shows that Buddhism has not lost its hold in Tamil Nadu. So, like that, I express my sincere gratitude, Dr. T. Arun Raj, the Superintending Archaeological Survey of India, Trichy Circle, for having given me the opportunity. And also, I would like to thank Dr. Muthukumar, Dr. Yatish Kumar, and also my well-wisher, T.S. Subramaniam, and my friend Professor Sivaramalingam, for having provided some relevant materials. I also thank each and every one of you for having listened my talk. Thank you.
Yes, respected colleagues and my dear friends, past almost an hour, we have very much delighted to hear the speech by Dr. Tirumurthy sir on the given topic, that is Buddhism in Tamil Nadu, an archaeological study. In the beginning of his speech, his lecture, he has started with the origin and spread of Buddhism in India particularly. He has started from the Maurya dynasty, that is the famous Emperor Ashoka, and his contribution towards the Buddhism. Even he has mentioned that Ashoka had built more than 84,000 stupas and 500 viharas all over the country. That means Ashoka period means country means it includes Afghanistan, from Afghanistan, Balochistan, from that area to up to, not only up to southern India. Even you must be knowing he had sent his own son and daughter, and then ambassador to different part of the Asian countries. So that is how this number, the figures are very high, but it is also realistic also. And then coming back to the southern India, Sarah has mentioned that in particularly our neighboring state, that is Andhra Pradesh, erstwhile Andhra Pradesh, it had it has 175 stupas. That is also a very big number. Then Sarah has mentioned about the main classification of Hinayana and Mahayana sect of Buddhism. Then coming back to the Tamil Nadu, he has mentioned about the three famous centers of Buddhism, that is Kanchipuram and Nagapattinam, and also of course Kumbhar. So to attest those sites, he has mentioned the Sangam literature, early Sangam literature, as well as the late Sangam literature like Manimegalai, Shilapadigaram. Also, he has mentioned about the Patinamalai also. Later, he has mentioned the Mahendravarman, that dramatic, that one Matta Vilasa Prakashanam also. Further, he detailed about the foreign scholars, particularly Ivan Swang's reference about the Dravida country and Ashoka's contributions in that region, Dravida country. It is very, if you, many of you knew that as per the Ashoka edicts, when he was before converting into the Buddhism, he was conquered the region from Afghanistan up to Mysore, the present Mysore. Even later, when he want to convert the people of Mysore, as per the edict, he could not convert in the earlier stage because of the simple reason: the people who lived in that region, Mysore, they spoke in a different language. That is why Ashoka appointed some mediators, one who familiar with both the languages of Ashoka as well as the local language. As an archaeologist, we can tell very well that during that time, the people who lived in the Mysore region, those were none other than the megalithic people. So that means they had also a language. That language could not understand by the Ashoka. That is why he appointed a mediator. That is why he conveyed the message of Lord Buddha. So that is why it's interesting. Again, now we are getting the reference from the Yuan Shuang and others that even here Ashoka built at Kanchipuram a stupa which measuring the height of 100 feet. So one side, during when he was powerful, he could not enter the southern part of India, because in one more edict he was mentioning about the presence of Sera, Sola Pandyas and Satiputros. But once he converted into the Buddhism, he entered, as per the available record, he entered Tamil Nadu. That is why after crossing Tamil Nadu only, he might have gone to the Sri Lanka. So these things are very much evident from the Sir's speech. Later, Sir has mentioned about the lot of important scholars, one who contributed in the field of Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. Mention must be made of that Dr. Meenakshi and T.N. Ramachandran and K.A. Nilakanta Sastri. Also, Sir very well mentioned about that the beginning of my talk, today lecture, I mentioned that why we have assembled here to fondly remember the birth anniversary of that Subramaniam sir, or Subramaniam. So Sir has mentioned that rightly, it is not R. Subramaniam, it is Nagarjuna Subramaniam. We should call it like that. So to sum up the Sir talk, yes. Sir has mentioned that as per the archaeological evidence, we have very few remains of structural remains, but we have more numbers of objects. That means more than 100 Buddha sculptures we have. Even the famous that Bodhidharma story, you might be knowing through some recent Tamil film also, Edam Arivu. So as per the story, a monk known as Bodhidharma, he was originally hailing from Kanchipuram of Buddhist pantheon. He left Kanchipuram. He went to China. That is how, because of him only, that particular sect of Buddhism known as Zen Buddhism, it started. He has established, and now it is a very big religion in China and other Southeast Asian countries. Like that, Sarah, in the end, he told, though on today and present day, we don't have much direct evidence of Buddhism in India, or particularly in Tamil Nadu, but it is a diffusion of cultures, a diffusion of religions with the Hindu and many other religions. So still we are continuing the main principle and doctrine of Buddha. That is particularly as mentioned about the Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of origin of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, the truth of the path that frees us from the suffering. So also, Bhagavan Buddha mentioned about the eightfold path. That is, as we all know very well, the right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentrations. I think if we follow at least few of them in our life, definitely we will be also at the path of the enlightenment. So with these few words, now it is we would like to show our gratitude towards the speaker. We would like to honor the speaker with this small piece of. Thank you very much, sir. Now, friends, it is time for that intellectual conversation. That is, if you have any doubts or any observations, any suggestions about the speakers' given topic, that is Buddhism in Tamil Nadu and archaeological approach, you may feel to ask. But my humble request is your question should be in a nutshell, in a brief manner. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes, friends, please, you can start. Any doubt, any suggestion, any observation?
Yes,
Sir, good evening, sir. This is
Saravanan.
I am calling from Salem. Hello.
Sir, hearing.
Yes. Audible.
Sir, I am Saravanan from Salem.
Okay. Okay.
Sir, here in one of my observation, I have come across one Buddhist statue.
Okay.
But as you mentioned in your presentation that most of the Buddhist statue, that head is broken. And,
not most of the only 25 out of 110, only 25 alone have been cut off.
Okay, sir. But here one peculiar thing is this Buddhist statue that is just opposite to the government hospital here in Salem town.
Okay.
Some people, they have reoriented that head, and now it is being called as an Thalavetti Muniyappan.
Okay. Okay. Local name.
So, yeah, they have given a local name, Thalavetti Muniyappan, but they have rightly placed that head on that statue. And now it is worshipped as a Muniyappan. I just don't know whether it has been documented with your listing or anything. And I just wanted to mention it to you, sir. As they don't allow to do any photograph because there was a lot of issues. Because some people were claiming that it was a Buddhist, and some people they hold the right over the temple. It is HRNC controlled place now.
Okay.
It is now popularly called as Thalavetti Muniyappan Kovil.
Okay.
But it is a Buddha statue only, and now every sacrifice of goat, everything they do for as such, they do for Muniyappan, they are doing it for a Buddhist Buddha statue. But the main idea of mentioning it is that as you are documented, I just wanted to mention it that it could be documented or anything. It is for your consideration for that, sir. But
it must have been definitely documented. Must have been definitely documented. But for further details and all, if you contact the State Department of Archaeology, they will give you the information, sir.
No, actually, we also from the Salem chapter of INTAC, we had sent one detailing also to our headquarters regarding the documentation of this. And even in Tyaganur, you have one very big Buddha statue also. And recently they made it as a tourism spot also. It is after Atur, near Aragalur, Tyaganur.
Okay, yes, Aragalur is reported, sir. Aragalur is reported. Aragalur Buddha sculpture is reported.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you for your kind information. Thank you for information. Whatever it may be, let them call Muniyappan or Vediyappan. The sculpture must be preserved at any cost. The sculpture must have been preserved because it is our heritage treasure.
Yes.
Heritage treasure, sir. Thank you for information.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. I'm Aaron. I'd like to ask some one of the question that before I go for my question, in the beginning, when they introduced Buddhism and Jainism were started during the 6th century, the Mahavira and the Buddha, but according to the Jainese belief, Mahavira was the last one. So before him, all 23
Tirthankaras, yes, that is their tradition.
Yes. So, yeah, it is their belief. And also, my question is, when you mentioned about regarding Nagapattinam and Kanchipuram and
Kumbhar,
about the Buddha Vihar, there was a time, the Bhumbhar, there was a time when the Buddhist monks were died. So do we found any other burial chamber of them because in the North India, especially in the Nalanda, Gaya, still they
Okay.
preserve the burial chambers there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
do we found anything in South India especially? So that was my question.
No idea about the
Yeah,
individuals.
that's my question. Do we find
No,
burial
sir.
chambers?
As per my knowledge is concerned, I have not come across such information, sir. I have not come across no book use such information also. No book. I have referred some of the important books also pertaining to the Buddhism study, but no books use such information, sir. That is
So it is
you
possible
mentioned
burial
something
chamber?
like a samadhi for the religious
Yes,
teachers,
yes.
isn't it? Samadhi for the religious teachers. No, we
Yes.
don't have such a samadhi for the Buddhist or the Jaina Buddhist teachers, particularly in the ancient times. Ancient
Okay,
times.
thank you, sir.
Okay, sir.
Sir, good evening.
Tell me, sir. Good morning. Good evening, sir.
Sir, I am Sridharan.
Yes. Your voice. I am able to hear you. Good morning. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you, sir? Fine?
Very fine, sir.
Okay.
Very fine.
Sir, your lecture is very informative. And I want to add one more point.
Okay, please add,
But
sir.
near Trichy, near Ponmalai, there is a
Okay.
village called Kurichi. You have shown that photograph.
Okay.
I have surveyed in 2002. But
Okay.
there is an inscription nearby that sculpture. வீர தாவளத்தில் பௌத்த பள்ளிக்கு இந்த செந்தாமரை கண்ணநல்லூர் முதலடங்க இறையிலியான பள்ளி சந்தம்.
Okay.
So Bauddha Palli, the inscription mentioned Bauddha Palli. So there was a small temple for that Buddha sculpture. But there is no head on for the sculpture, Buddha sculpture, about the dated to 10th, 11th centuries AD. It is near the field. So some brick structure also found nearby that sculpture. In that time, I could not survey that area because of the cultivation and other things. So now the Archaeological Survey of India has formed the Trichy Circle. So they may go and they may explore that area. Is there any brick structure or Bauddha? Because the inscription mentioned Bauddha Palliki Irayaliyana Palli Chandam.
Yes,
so
definitely
there must be a Bauddha Palli.
Yes,
so this is just for I want to add some more.
Very good information. Very good information.
Yeah, okay.
Now
for Dr. Arun Raj also.
Yes. Sir is available. Sir is rightly available here. So he will answer.
Okay.
I have noted down. Definitely, in the near future, our team will be visiting. We will document whatever the
near Ponmalai, very near Kalkanda Kotai. It's very near village. Also, it is mentioned as Veera Tavalam. There is a trade center was there. So I could not survey that area fully on that time. And also the Kundur. Kundur also is an important place near Pudukkottai, on the way to Pudukkottai. So the two areas may be surveyed again and find out because you may get some more good points and evidences for the origin of Buddhism especially in Chola country. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Krishnamurthy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir will do
the Trimurti, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nageshwar Rao, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening, sir. Yes, I am able to remember you.
It's totally nice. Thank you, sir. Scholarly presentation. My compliments to you, and as well as thanks to Trichy Circle also.
Yes,
and sir, my question to you, number one.
Okay.
In Kanchipuram, do we have any strong material archaeological evidences that any Buddhistic stupas or viharas found? Number one.
Okay.
Question number two. In Adivaraha temple of Mamallapuram, of course, Buddha has conceived as one of the 10 incarnations, Dashavatars, but there is no Krishna. Though Krishna is an important character in Mahabharata, and his figure is not there. Why? Only these two questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll answer you immediately. So regarding the Buddhist structure at Kanchipuram is concerned, we have not traced out any structures. But in the archaeological excavation conducted at Kanchipuram, we have recovered a potsherd been bearing the legend Puttalisa, which is dated to 1st century BC, no doubt in it. It is a Tamil Brahmin script. So that alone is the only evidence, solitary evidence for some kind of the Buddhist vihara or whatever it may be at Kanchipuram. Other than that, we have not been discovered anything. Only the sculptures, large number of sculptures which have been exhibited or found in the temples or even the school, police station at Kanchipuram. So there alone speak what they call the existence of Buddhism at Kanchipuram. Number of sculptures are there. So what is the reason of availability of number of sculptures? There were some Buddhist monasteries. Since the Buddhist monasteries were ruined, the sculptures are lying here and there. That is what we have to infer. Regarding our second question is concerned, that is the avatara. Buddha is included as the 9th avatara. It is very well known. They wantedly only they have deleted the Krishna avatara in the Dasavataras to include the Buddha. That is why I told you Buddha was very much popular in those days. Buddhism was very much popular to some kind of activity. I do not want to say more than that. For that matter only they have included Buddha's avatara. But at the same time, they have given a lot of importance to Krishna. That is why we have the Krishna, the bas relief, the biggest bas relief next to the Arjuna's finance. Same king, at most only some 100 years, 50 years difference. 7th century CE only. 7th century means must be the Narasimha in the first period, 630 to 668 CE. So he was responsible for both the things, I think. He issued the inscription, including the Buddha as one of Avatara, but at the same time, he also instructed to depict the Krishna's, the Govardhandari panel in the same area. The same area by the same king also. That is already mentioned in some of the books also, sir. Krishna Avadara was definitely given. They have not discarded the Krishna Avadara. For that matter, only they have given a very big sculptural representation for Krishna in the form of the Govardhandari panel nearby.
Yes. Thank you so much.
T.S. Subramanian.
Yes, sir.
நான் கேட்கலாம ஒரு கேள்வி, 2 கேள்வி. குட் மார்னிங் டாக்டர் திருமூர்த்தி சார் கிட்ட 2 சிறிய கேள்விகள். நான் பணிமூப்பு பெற்ற ரிப்போர்ட்டர். சில ஆண்டுகளுக்கு முன்பு மூதறிஞர் டாக்டர் நாகசாமி என்னிடம் கூறினார், சென்னையில் உள்ள வியாசபாடி என்பது புத்தரோடு தொடர்புடைய வைசாலியோட தொடர்பு கொண்டது. அதனால்தான் இதற்கு வியாசர்பாடி என்ற பெயர் வந்தது என்று கூறினார். மேலும் அவர் அங்கு ஒரு புத்தர் கோவிலும் இருந்தது என்று கூறினார். நானும் பெரம்பூரில் வாழ்ந்தவன், நீங்களும் பெரம்பூரில் ஜமாலியா ஸ்கூலில் படித்தவர். அதனால் அந்த புத்தர் கோவில் எனக்கு நன்றாக நினைவுள்ளது. அது இப்பொழுது இல்லை, அதை அபகரித்து வீடெல்லாம் கட்டிவிட்டார்கள். அந்த வியாசர்பாடியில் ஏதாவது புத்தரோட தொடர்புடைய ஏதாவது ஸ்ட்ரக்சர்ஸ், ஆர்கியாலஜிக்கல் ஃபைண்டிங்ஸ் ஏதாவது கண்டுபிடிச்சிருக்கீங்களா? இது ஒரு கேள்வி. இன்னும் மற்ற கேள்வி டாக்டர் டி சத்யமூர்த்தி, பழைய சென்னை சர்க்கிள் சூப்பரண்டிங் ஆர்கியாலஜிஸ்ட், வேப்பத்தூரை அங்க இருக்க பெரிய விஷ்ணு கோவிலை ரெஸ்டோர் பண்ணி கொண்டிருக்கிறார். அதில் பல்லவர் காலத்து கோவிலும் கிடைத்துள்ளது. அவர் ஒரு முறை கூறினார் என்னிடம், இந்த மாதிரி அது ஒரு புத்தர் சைத்தியாவாக இருக்கக்கூடும் என்று கூறினார். அதற்கு ஏதாவது சான்றுகள் கிடைத்துள்ளதா? வேப்பத்தூரில் உள்ள இன்றைய விஷ்ணு கோவில், பெருமாள் கோவில் முன்றைய காலத்தில் புத்தர் சைத்தியாவாக இருந்தது என்று இருக்கலாம் என்று கூறினார் அனுமானமாக. அதற்கு ஏதாவது சான்றுகள் கிடைத்துள்ளதா? இதுதான் இந்த 2 கேள்விகள். ரொம்ப நன்றி உங்களுக்கு.
Thank you. Regarding the Vyasarpadi is concerned, one Buddha sculpture was already reported in Vyasarpadi area. And as you rightly mentioned, the Sangha was there at Perambur area near bus stand. It was a very big the Buddha Sangha some 50 years ago. Now the entire area has been encroached. Now you won't find any remnants of the Buddha Sangha there. That is what the story of the Buddhism in Perambur and the Vyasarpadi area. More than that, I don't know. And regarding the Vepattur temple is concerned, I have never visited the Vepattur Vishnu temple, and I do not know anything else about it, sir. I do not know anything else about it. Only the proper study will give you the details, sir. You have to some study is necessary, sir. Institute study and all. I don't know anything. I do not know, sir.
இன்னொரு ஒரு சிறிய கேள்வி கேட்கலாமா? இப்ப நீங்க கூறியது போல 80 ஸ்தூபா இருக்கு, அதாவது சங்கராம், ராமதீர்த்தம், கோலி, நாகார்ஜுன கொண்டா போன்ற. ஏன் இங்க தமிழ்நாட்டில் ஒரே ஒரு புத்த ஸ்தூபா மட்டும் நீங்கள் கூறியது போல காஞ்சிபுரத்தில் மட்டும்தான் அசோகர் கட்டினார் என்று நம்பப்படுகிறது? ஏன் அவ்வளவு நிறைய ஸ்தூபாக்களை தமிழ்நாட்டில் அசோகர் கட்டவில்லை?
Sir, that is why even our Superintendental Arun Raj also rightly said, Ashoka could not penetrate beyond what they call the Penna River, the Nellore area. because that time that area was under the rule of the powerful Sangam Cholas, Sheras, Pandyas, and Keralaputra. That is why Asoka was not able to enter. Was not able to enter. It is what regarded his 13th Rocky Edict also. He has clearly mentioned that these are the boundaries of my empire like that. So he was not able to enter. Not only that, the powerful the Tamil Confederation was destroyed by the dynasty Kalinga ruler, sir. Kalinga ruler. So he was only able to Karvela. So he was only able to do powerful Tamil Confederacy, which was in existence for more than 110 years old. That is recorded in the inscription also. My point is here the existing religious system, like that I told you about Kuriji Mullai Muradu Major Palai and all. They were local people. They were very much particular about the religious systems. Of course, they have the thing. The Buddhism somehow spread only to the mercantile towns only. Mercantile towns and the port towns, not the interior areas of Tamil Nadu. I think here the religious system was entirely different. There the king was also different. Sadavahana kings. First Mauryas they have ruled. Then after the Mauryas, the Sadavahanas they have succeeded. Sadavahanas were the followers of the Buddhism. They were the sons of Mauryas. And naturally, they have followed the Buddhism. They have patronized the Buddhism. That is why we have more than 175 stupas in the Andhra Pradesh alone. Whereas in Karnataka also we have some stupas. But in Tamil Nadu is concerned, only the selected places like Kanchipuram, then Nagapattinam, and Pumbugar, where we have seen the existence of the Buddha Viharas. Not in other areas. Even Madurai also there were Viharas, but at the time of the Singh visit, even some visit also, the stupas were ruined. That is what he has recorded also.
Very convincing reply from Dr. Tirumurthy. Thank you, Dr. Tirumurthy.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Arun Raj was saying something.
Okay, sir.
Hello, sir.
Sorry.
Again, Aaron. இப்ப கேட்ட கேள்வியில இருந்து ஒரு சின்ன இது இப்ப ஐயா கேட்டதுல இருந்து நீங்க கல்கியினுடைய சிவகாமியின் சபதம்ன்ற ஒரு நாவல்ல இந்த தூணை பத்தி எழுதுறாரு. அதாவது அந்த அந்த சிவகாமியும் அவங்க அப்பாவும் ஒரு இடத்துல ஒரு புத்த விகாரில இருக்க போது மகேந்திராவுக்கு வந்து பார்க்க வர்ற இடத்துல தூவி இருந்ததா அவருக்கு குறிப்பிடுறாரு தமிழ்நாட்டுல. அடுத்தது வந்து அசோகருடைய இது பத்தி பேச போது அசோகருக்கும் இவருக்கும் அதியமானுக்கும் ஒரு ட்ரீட்டி இருந்த ஒரு கல்வெட்டு வந்து பிரகத மொழியில இருந்து அசோகர் அதுக்கு மேல உள்ள வர முடியல என்ற ஒரு கல்வெட்டு வந்து ஒரு கல்வெட்டு இதுல நான் பார்த்தேன் ஒரு ஆய்வு கூட்டத்துல.
சரி சார்.
அவங்களுக்கான அந்த ட்ரீட்டி ஆரியப் இது நல்ல பேரு தகடூர் என்ற இதுல வருது. அது இரும்புரை சோழர் அந்த இது என்னது கூட கபிலர் கூட இந்த உண்ணாவு நோம்பு இருந்து ஏறப்பாரு இல்லையா, அந்த ஊர் பேரு நல்ல ஊரு காரையூர ஏதோ ஒண்ணு. அந்த கல்வெட்டுல பார்த்த மாதிரி இது திருக்கோயிலூர். இந்த கல்வெட்டுல அதியமான் அதியமானுக்கும் அசோகருடைய இதுக்கும் ஒரு ட்ரீட்டி இருக்கிற மாதிரி ஒரு கல்வெட்டு கேள்விப்பட்டேன். அதே மாதிரி தமிழ்நாட்டுல இருந்த ஒரு அசோக தூபி வந்து கல்கியுடைய அந்த நாவல்ல ஒரு எழுதுவாரு. அது சுதந்திரத்துக்கு முன்னாடி வந்த நாவல்.
சரி சார். சரி சார். நீங்க சொன்ன மாதிரி ஸ்தூபம் இருந்தது, கட்டினது உண்மை. காஞ்சிபுரத்துல அது வந்து யுவன் சாங் பார்க்கும்போது அந்த ஸ்தூபம் இருந்தது. அதுக்கு பிறகு வந்து 10ஆவது நூற்றாண்டு 11ஆம் நூற்றாண்டுல அதெல்லாம் வந்து டிஸ்மேண்டல் ஆயிருக்கலாம். ஸோ யுவன் சாங் இருக்கும்போது ஸ்தூபம் அசோகர் கட்டின ஸ்தூபம் இருந்து அவர் யுவன் சாங் அட்மிட்டட். அவர் சொல்றார், நான் ஸ்தூபத்தை பார்த்தேன்றார், 100 அடி ஸ்தூபம் பார்த்தேன், இந்த மாதிரி 10,000 மாங்ஸ் எல்லாம் பார்த்தேன்னு சொல்றார். இட் வாஸ் எ வெரி ஃபேமஸ் புத்திஸ்ட் சென்டர் இன் தோஸ் டேஸ். காஞ்சிபுரம் இருந்தது. அதே பிறகு என்னாச்சு நமக்கு தெரியல சார். உங்களுக்கு தெரியும் பக்தி மூவ்மெண்ட்ல நான் சொன்னேன். அந்த பக்தி மூவ்மெண்ட்டா என்னன்னு தெரியல. ரிலீஜியஸ் சில இடத்துல நடந்திருக்கலாம். ரிலீஜியஸ் இன்டாலரேஷன் நம்ம வந்து we have to study properly, sir. சொல்லுங்க சார்.
நியர் காமாட்சி டெம்பிள்.
நீங்க தான் எஸ்கேப் பண்ணீங்க.
ஆமா, KCM 4 I have worked myself and participated under
now Yagamarnath is no more. It is very unfortunate.
இல்ல அங்க வந்து ஒரு புத்திஸ்ட் ஸ்தூபா மாதிரி ஒரு சர்க்கிள் ஆஃப் சர்க்கிள் பிரிக் ஸ்ட்ரக்சர் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. அதுலதான் அந்த புத்தலிசா அப்படின்ற பிராமி ஷர்ட் அதுல கிடைச்சது, சாத்தவாகனா காயின்ஸ் கிடைச்சது, எல்லாமே கிடைச்சது. நம்ம ஆர்கியலாஜிக்கல் டிபார்ட்மெண்ட், மெட்ராஸ் யூனிவர்சிட்டி டிபார்ட்மெண்ட் KCM4 1970-71 நம்ம பண்ணும்போது கிடைச்சிருக்கு. பட் அது வந்து அது that is the only thing. அவ்வளவுதான். That is whether it is stupa or not, that a brick structure was found, and in that trench we found that Puthalisa and the Brahmi shirt and எல்லாமே கிடைச்சது, காயின் மோல்டு எல்லாமே அங்க கிடைச்சது. அந்த KCM4 and that trench is yielded lot of antiquities from that site. So நான் சொல்றேன், Huansong has referred lot of stupas, was more than 1000 stupas was in Kanchipuram. So நீ சொன்ன மாதிரி religious இதனால, so it was maybe demolished in due course of time. அதனால that is also one of the evidences. இன்னும் ப்ராப்பரா நம்ம ஃபியூச்சர்ல கிடைக்கிற போது நிச்சயமாக கிடைக்கலாம். அது வந்து சொல்ல முடியாது, நிச்சயமாக கிடைக்கலாம்.
இன்னொன்னு சார், டிவி மாலிங்க எஸ்கவேட் பண்ணாரு இங்க உறையூர்ல. உறையூர் வாஸ் ஏன்ஷியன்ட் கேபிட்டல் சிட்டி அண்ட் சோழாசட்டம். அவரே எவ்வளவு கஷ்டப்பட்டாரு, இடமே கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியல, தோன்றதுக்கு
இடம் கிடைக்கல.
எப்போ அவர் சொல்ற 1960s. உங்களை அதால நம்ம என்ன பண்ண முடியும், எல்லாம் வீடு பில்டிங் கட்டிட்டாங்க.
50 years ஆயிடுச்சு. இன்னைக்கு 70ல பண்ணும்போது
ஆமா சார்,
myself, Dr. Amarnathan and
Ramamurthy
participated in that work. So it's yielded a very good number of. Kanchipuram itself is a very good site by the University, Madras University Department. They yielded lot of antiquities. அது வந்து நல்ல ஃபைண்டிங்ஸ். அது கொஞ்சம் நம்ம ஸ்டடி பண்ணோம்னா நிச்சயமா நமக்கு வந்து நல்லா கிடைக்கலாம். சொல்ல முடியாது. ஏன்னா கோனிக்கல் ஜார்ஸே கிட்டத்தட்ட more than 49 கோனிக்கல் ஜார்ஸ் were obtained in that trench.
கோனிக்கல் ஜார்ஸ் நம்ம ட்ரேடிங் பர்பஸ், கோனிக்கல் ஜார்ஸ் ட்ரேடிங் பர்பஸ். நம்ம புத்திசம் ரெலவன்ட் மேபி. Okay, right. Okay, thank you for it.
Thank you, very informative, and Dr. Tirumurthy.
Yes,
very nice. Best wishes.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Shall we sum up? If if anyone still wants to know any comments, any suggestions, any doubt? Okay, respected viewers, my dear viewers, friends, seniors, it is once again, it is our privilege to have this famous personality, the field of archaeology, Tamil Nadu archaeology, Dr. Tirumurthy sir. He has delivered the very thought-provoking and very informative talk on the Buddhism in Tamil Nadu. Also, I think he was a very ample way. He has answered your queries, and also, and then what are the suggestions towards the Tiruchi circle we have noted down related to the surveying the areas. We will do it in the coming due course of time. So on behalf of Tiruchi circle, we would like to once again extend our thanks to the speaker, Dr. G. Tirumurthy sir. In this occasion, I would like to thank my own colleagues, archaeologists, Dr. Yatish Kumar and Dr. Muthukumar, for extending the technical support towards this completing this, preparing this PPT and all these things. So yes, friends, with this we will sum up this today presentations. Let us meet next month with some other interesting talk with some other notable personality like today. Thank you one and all.